My name is Oliver. I'm 62 years old, and this morning I woke up shaking when I heard someone forcing the lock on my house. It was Ethan, my own son, coming to take the only thing I have left, my pension. It's been 3 days since he emptied my refrigerator and cupboards, taking every last dollar I had hidden under the mattress. For almost 4 decades I made a living as a bricklayer in a Rust Belt city, building houses so others could have a safe home. But now, my trembling, calloused hands can barely hold the empty coffee mug I pretend to fill in this looted kitchen. Before I continue with the story, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment where you're watching from. Your help is very important. This morning I woke up with my stomach growling. It's been 3 days without a decent meal. I opened the cupboard out of habit, even though I knew it would be just as empty as yesterday. All that was left was a handful of beans and half a pack of hard tortillas, enough to last one more day. I'll have to make do with this, I muttered as I put the beans to soak, trying to ignore the pain in my joints, a constant reminder of years lifting cement and carrying bricks. The sound of the doorbell interrupted my thoughts. Through the window I saw Leo, my 12-year-old grandson, standing at the door with his backpack. My heart leaped with joy. The only good thing I have left in this life is that kid. "Grandpa!" Leo shouted when he saw me open the door. He threw himself into my arms with the energy of a whirlwind. "Leo, what are you doing here so early? You should be in school," I said as I let him in. "Dad brought me. He said he had to talk to you about something important and that I would stay with you today." His eyes sparkled with excitement. "He says we can spend the whole day together," I frowned. Ethan, my son, never just brought Leo over like that, especially on a school day. Something wasn't right. Just then, Ethan walked in without knocking. At 37, my son has become a stranger to me. There's nothing left of the boy I raised with so much effort after his mother died. Now he's a man with a hard gaze, dressed in expensive clothes he surely bought with the money he's been taking from me. "Dad, we need to talk," he said without greeting me. "Leo, go play in the yard for a bit." When Leo went outside, Ethan closed the door and sat across from me at the kitchen table. I noticed he was wearing new clothes and a watch that surely cost more than all my furniture combined. "I'm here for the pension money," he said bluntly. "What money?" "It was just deposited yesterday and I already gave you almost all of it to pay off the debts you say we have," I replied, feeling my blood pressure start to rise. "I need the rest. All of it." His tone was cold, calculating. "I have an important business deal and I need to invest. And what am I going to eat for the rest of the month? You already left me with nothing last week. Look at me, I haven't eaten properly in days." Ethan let out a laugh that chilled me to the bone. "Don't be dramatic, Dad. You've got beans there. Old guys like you don't need much to live on." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. How could he treat me like this? I, who had sacrificed everything for him after Rose died. "I'm not giving you another dollar," I said, trying to make my voice sound firm despite the fear I felt. "You've taken enough. I need that money to live." Ethan's expression changed. The smile vanished, and his eyes became two dark slits. He stood up slowly, leaning his hands on the table, bending towards me. "Listen to me carefully, old man. I'm not asking for your permission. I'm telling you that you're going to give me that money one way or another. Are you threatening me? I'm your father. You're a useless old man taking up space and money that I could be using." He spat the words with contempt. "You know what? We're going to the bank right now, and you're going to take everything out. Every last cent. I can't do that, Ethan. It's all I have to." I didn't finish the sentence. Ethan slammed the table with such force that the empty mug fell to the floor, shattering into pieces. "I don't care. You're going to do what I say, or I swear you'll regret it." At that moment, Leo peeked his head through the door, frightened by the noise. "Dad, is everything okay?" As if a switch had been flipped, Ethan completely changed his demeanor. His face transformed into a mask of kindness. "Of course, champ. We're just discussing adult things. Your grandpa and I are going out for a moment. You stay here and do your homework, okay? We'll be back soon." Leo looked at me, confused. I could see the worry in his eyes. This kid has always been more perceptive than any adult I know. "Go on, Leo." "I'll be fine," I said, trying to smile. "There are cookies on the top shelf. Have some while we're gone." Ethan grabbed my arm forcefully, almost dragging me to the door. As we left, I looked back and saw Leo watching us, with those big, worried eyes. In the car, Ethan drove in silence. I looked out the window, wondering how I had reached this point. At what moment had my son turned into this monster who treated me like a burden? "Why are you doing this, Ethan?" I finally asked. "I gave you everything I could. I worked 2 shifts to send you to college. And this is how you repay me? Repay you? You think I owe you something?" he replied, without taking his eyes off the road. "You did what any father would do. I don't owe you anything. And now, it's my turn to live well. I have a business opportunity that will change our lives. I need that money." "What business?" "You never tell me about it. You wouldn't understand. Modern stuff. Investments that will yield huge returns." "Like the previous ones? The ones that made you lose all the money you took from my savings account 6 months ago?" Ethan slammed on the brakes, causing me to hit the dashboard. He looked at me with a fury I had never seen in his eyes. "Shut up. You don't know anything. This time is different. And you don't have a choice. You're going to give me that money." We arrived at the bank. With a firm grip on my arm, Ethan led me to the teller. I felt people's stares, but no one said anything. Maybe they thought he was a son taking care of his elderly father. How wrong they were. "Good morning," Ethan said with a fake smile to the teller. "My father needs to withdraw his entire account balance." The young woman looked at me for confirmation. I wanted to scream that I was being robbed, that this man was extorting me, but the words wouldn't come out of my mouth. Fear paralyzed me. What would happen to Leo if I reported Ethan? Who would take care of my grandson? "Sir, are you withdrawing your entire balance?" the teller asked. I felt Ethan's hand tighten on my arm, his fingers digging into my skin like claws. "Yes," I finally replied, my voice defeated. "Everything." The teller processed the transaction. My savings, my pension, everything I had to survive for the next few months. It was now in an envelope that Ethan snatched from my hands as soon as the teller handed it over. On the way home, we didn't speak. What could I say? I had been stripped of everything. And the worst part was that my own son had done it. When we arrived, Leo ran out to greet us. Ethan ruffled his hair affectionately, as if he were the perfect father. "Leo, go get your backpack. We're going home," Ethan said. "But you said I could stay with Grandpa today," Leo protested. "Change of plans. Your grandpa isn't feeling well. He needs to rest." Leo looked at me, his eyes full of disappointment. "Is it true, Grandpa? Are you sick?" I wanted to tell him the truth. I wanted to hug him and not let him go. But I couldn't. "I'm just tired, kiddo. You'll come another day, okay?" Leo nodded, though he didn't seem convinced. He went to get his backpack while Ethan watched me with a triumphant smirk. "Thanks for your cooperation, Dad," he said in a low voice. "Don't worry. You'll be fine. Old guys like you know how to manage." Before I could answer, Leo returned with his backpack. He hugged me tightly, as if he knew something was wrong, as if he wanted to give me some of his strength. "I love you, Grandpa," he whispered in my ear. "And I love you too, kiddo," I replied, fighting back tears. I watched them leave. The door closed, and I was left alone in my empty house, with no food, no money, no hope. I sat in the kitchen chair, looking at the broken pieces of the mug on the floor, a perfect reflection of what was left of my life. But as I looked at those fragments, something inside me ignited, a spark of dignity, of courage. I couldn't go on like this. I couldn't let Ethan treat me this way, not just for my sake, but for Leo's. That boy needed to see that his grandfather had worth, that he didn't give up in the face of injustice, even when it came from his own father. With trembling hands, I picked up the pieces of the mug. I didn't know how, but I was going to get my life back, my dignity, and my pension. And most importantly, I was going to protect Leo from becoming someone like his father. The sound of the neighbor's door pulled me from my thoughts. It was Isabella Miller, my neighbor for so many years. Maybe she could help me. I had nothing to lose. With renewed determination, I stood up and walked to the door. It was time to fight. When I knocked on Isabella's door, I felt ashamed. I've never liked asking for help, let alone confessing that my own son was leaving me destitute. Men of my generation were raised to solve our own problems, to be the support of the family, not a burden. Isabella opened the door, and her expression changed when she saw me. "Oliver, what happened to you? You're pale. Can I come in? I need to talk to someone." She led me into her small, neat living room, with pictures of her children and grandchildren on the walls. At 59, Isabella was a widow like me. But unlike me, her children visited her every Sunday without fail. "Want some coffee?" "I just made a fresh pot." I nodded, unable to refuse something warm in my stomach. As she poured the cups, I told her everything. How Ethan had started by asking for small amounts a year ago, always with convincing excuses, until it got to the point of leaving me without food for days, and now without my entire pension. That boy, how can he do that to his own father? The indignation in her voice comforted me. At least someone understood the seriousness of the situation. The worst part is that he uses Leo. The kid is not to blame for anything, but Ethan uses him as a shield. He knows I won't do anything that could affect my grandson. Isabella put her cup down on the table and looked at me intently. Oliver, what's happening to you has a name. It's abuse. Elder abuse. And it's a crime. A crime? He's my son. Being your son doesn't give him the right to leave you without food or take your pension. That's yours. You earned it by working your whole life. Her words hit me hard. I had never seen it that way. To me, it was just my son being ungrateful. But a criminal? And what can I do? If I report him, what will happen to Leo? Isabella sighed. My niece works for social services. Let me talk to her. There must be a way to protect you without Leo getting hurt. As we finished our coffee, we heard a commotion outside. From the window, we saw a patrol car parked in front of Mr. Evans's house. Another neighbor our age. What could have happened? Isabella murmured. We went out to see. Several neighbors had already gathered. Mr. Evans was sitting on the sidewalk, his head in his hands, while a police officer took notes. They took everything, he said between sobs. They came saying they were from the bank, that they were here to verify something about my pension, and when I realized, they were gone with my wallet and the television. The officer, a young man with a bored air, barely looked up from his notebook. And what did these people look like, sir? I already told you. 2 men, one tall and one short, with blue uniforms. Did they have identification? Did you see their faces clearly? Well, I don't remember well. It happened so fast. The officer sighed, closing his notebook. Look, sir, without a clear description, it's hard to do anything. I'll file the report, but honestly, cases like this are rarely solved. I felt a pang of anger. Is this how they treated the elderly? As if our problems were insignificant. The officer turned to leave, but then he noticed me. For a second our eyes met. There was something in his eyes. Recognition? No, impossible. I had never seen him before. We went back to Isabella's house. But I couldn't stop thinking about Mr. Evans. What if it wasn't a random robbery? What if someone was systematically taking advantage of the elderly in the neighborhood? Isabella, have you heard of more cases like Mr. Evans lately? She frowned, thoughtful. Now that you mention it, Mrs. Collins told me her sister was also scammed a month ago. Someone claiming to be from the government. Something about a special bonus for pensioners. And what happened? They took all her savings. $10,000 she had saved for emergencies. A shiver ran down my spine. It couldn't be a coincidence. That night I returned to my house with some food that Isabella insisted on giving me, and the promise that her niece would come to see us tomorrow. But I could barely sleep, thinking about Ethan, the money, and Leo. The doorbell rang early the next morning. When I opened it, I was surprised to see the same police officer who had attended to Mr. Evans. Good morning, Mr. Oliver. I'm Lieutenant Miles. May I come in? Confused, I let him in. He sat in my living room, discreetly looking around, surely noticing the scarcity of furniture and the lack of food in the kitchen visible from there. How do you know my name? I asked. That doesn't matter right now. I'm here. Unofficially. I saw you yesterday at Mr. Evans' house, and I noticed something in your eyes. You're a victim too, aren't you? His words left me cold. Was it that obvious? I don't know what you're talking about. Lieutenant Miles smiled sadly. Mr. Oliver, I've been investigating elder abuse cases for 3 years. I've seen that look hundreds of times. Fear, shame, helplessness. Tell me the truth. Is someone mistreating or scamming you? Something in his tone, in his sincere gaze, made me trust him. I told him everything, from the first loan Ethan asked for to the incident at the bank. What you're describing is clearly a case of financial abuse, he said when I finished. But I understand your concern for your grandson. These family situations are the most complicated. What can I do? I don't want Ethan to go to jail. He's my son, despite everything. And Leo needs him. Lieutenant Miles leaned forward. There are options that don't involve jail time. Restraining orders, rehabilitation programs, shared custody of the minor. But we need proof. Proof? Like what? Recordings, testimonies, bank records. Something that shows your son is leaving you without basic resources. At that moment, the door burst open. Ethan came in with Leo behind him, Seeing the police officer, he stopped in his tracks. "What's going on here? Who are you?" Lieutenant Miles stood up calmly. "Lieutenant Miles, I'm making community visits after the incident at your neighbor's house yesterday." Ethan looked at me suspiciously. "What incident?" "A robbery," I replied, my mouth dry. "At Mr. Evans' house?" "And I was just leaving," Miles added, heading for the door. Before leaving, he handed me a card. "If you need anything, Mr. Oliver, don't hesitate to call me." When the door closed, Ethan exploded. "What was that cop doing here? Did you tell him something about me?" "No, son. You heard him. Community visits. Routine." Ethan didn't seem convinced, but Leo's presence held him back. "Whatever. Leo, go to the room for a moment." "But, Dad, now." When Leo left, Ethan approached me menacingly. "Listen to me carefully, old man. If I find out you've said anything to that cop, I swear you'll never see Leo again." "Understood?" I nodded, unable to speak. Fear paralyzed me again. "I came because Leo insisted on seeing you. He has a school project about family stories and wants to interview you. I'll be back for him in 2 hours, and you better not say anything inappropriate." With that, Ethan left, leaving Leo and me alone. My grandson came out of the room and ran to hug me. "Grandpa, I brought you something." From his backpack, he took out a sandwich wrapped in aluminum foil and an apple. "I saw you didn't have any food yesterday, so I saved this for my lunch." Tears filled my eyes. This boy, only 12 years old, had more heart than his father. "Thank you, kiddo, but I can't accept it. It's your food." "Please, Grandpa. I'll feel bad if you don't eat it." I gave in, sharing the sandwich with him while he interviewed me for his project. He asked me about my childhood, about how I met his grandmother, about the hardest jobs I had as a bricklayer. "Grandpa, why does Dad treat you like that?" he asked suddenly, leaving me frozen. "What do you mean?" "I heard him yesterday when we got home. He was on the phone, saying he'd taken all your money and that you were a useless old man." "Why does he say those things?" I felt as if the floor had opened up beneath my feet. What could I tell him? How could I explain to a child that his father was an abuser? "Your dad? He's going through a tough time, Leo. Sometimes adults say things we don't mean when we're stressed." Leo shook his head. "It's not just that. I've seen how he treats you. And now you don't have any food, and you always give him money. It's not fair." "Life isn't always fair, kiddo." "Well, it should be." His eyes shone with determination. "My teacher says that if we see an injustice, we should speak up, and what Dad does to you is an injustice." Just then, the doorbell rang. It was Isabella with a young woman, who I assumed was her niece from social services. "Oliver, this is Alexandra, my niece. She works in elder protection." Alexandra shook my hand firmly. "Mr. Oliver, my aunt told me about your situation. I'd like to help you, if you'll let me." I looked at Leo, worried about what he might hear. But the boy spoke up. "Are you here to help my grandpa because my dad takes his money?" he asked directly. The three of us adults were speechless. Leo continued. "I know everything. I listen when Dad talks on the phone. I know he takes Grandpa's pension and leaves him without food. And it's not fair." Alexandra knelt to his level. "You're right, it's not fair. And yes, I'm here to help your grandfather. But we also want to make sure you're okay." "I'm fine. It's my grandpa who has nothing to eat." The way Leo spoke, with such maturity and clarity, filled me with both pride and sadness. A child shouldn't have to deal with these situations. Alexandra began to explain the legal options. As she spoke, I noticed Leo discreetly taking something out of his backpack. A small cell phone. "I have proof," he said, interrupting Alexandra. "I've recorded Dad several times talking about how he takes money from Grandpa." He showed us the phone, playing a recording. Ethan's voice was unmistakable. "The old man already gave me his whole pension. Don't even ask what I want it for. It's my money now." "Leo, where did you get that phone?" I asked, amazed. "Jacob's mom gave it to me. He's my friend. His family gets new phones every year, and she gave me one of the old ones. Dad doesn't know I have it." Alexandra took the phone carefully. This could be crucial evidence. "But, Leo, do you understand what could happen if we use these recordings? Your dad could get in trouble." Leo nodded solemnly. "I know, but what he's doing is wrong. My grandpa taught me that we have to do the right thing, even if it's hard." His words pierced me like a lightning bolt. I had taught him that, yes, but now he was the one teaching me a lesson in courage. Alexandra continued explaining the process, filing a complaint, requesting protective measures, possibly a restraining order for Ethan. Suddenly, we heard a car pull up outside. Through the window, I saw Ethan's car. "He's back!" Leo exclaimed in alarm. "Calm down," said Isabella. "Alexandra, you and I are friends who came to visit Oliver. Understood?" Alexandra nodded, quickly putting away her documents, while Leo hid the phone. Ethan entered without knocking, as always. Seeing the two women, he frowned. "What's this? A social gathering? They're friends, son. They came to visit me." Ethan looked at me suspiciously, then at Isabella and Alexandra. "Whatever. Leo, we're leaving." "But Dad, I haven't finished my school interview yet." "I said we're leaving. Now." The look he gave me was loaded with threat. I knew he suspected something. Leo reluctantly gathered his things, but before he left, he hugged me tightly. "I'll be back soon, Grandpa, I promise." When they were gone, Alexandra looked at me seriously. "Mr. Oliver, your situation is serious. And now I'm worried about Leo, too. If your son finds out he's been recording him." "I know," I said, a knot forming in my stomach. "What do we do? For now, I need those recordings. And we must act quickly. I'll be back tomorrow with a colleague from Social Services and Lieutenant Miles. In the meantime, don't confront your son and stay in touch with Leo if you can." After they left, I was alone with my thoughts. The situation had changed drastically. It was no longer just my well-being at stake, but also Leo's safety. That night, I received a text message on my old phone. It was from an unknown number. "Grandpa, it's me. Dad is very angry. He says he knows you're planning something against him. I'm scared. Please be careful." It was Leo. My heart sank. Things were about to get worse. I could feel it. But now I had something I hadn't had in a long time. Hope. And the determination of a grandfather willing to protect his grandson, no matter the cost. I couldn't sleep that night. Leo's message kept me awake, imagining the worst-case scenarios. What if Ethan discovered the recordings? What if he decided to take it out on the boy? I tossed and turned in bed, my empty stomach rumbling and my head full of worries. At 5 in the morning, as the first rays of sun barely peeked through, I heard a noise at the door. Someone was trying to open it with a key. I jumped up, grabbing the first thing I found as a weapon, an old shoe. The door opened and Ethan appeared. His eyes were red, as if he hadn't slept either. Or, worse, as if he had been drinking. "What are you doing here so early?" I asked, lowering the shoe but staying alert. "This is still my house," he replied in a slurred voice. He had definitely been drinking. "I'm looking for something." "What?" Without answering, Ethan started rummaging through the drawers, throwing everything on the floor. He was looking for something desperately. "Ethan! What are you doing? Stop!" He ignored me, continuing his frantic search. Finally, he turned to me furious. "Where is it?" "Where is what? I don't understand what you're looking for." He got so close I could smell the alcohol on his breath. "The deed. To the house. I know you have it hidden. I need it." A chill ran down my spine. The deed to the house. The only valuable possession I had left. The house I built with my own 2 hands, brick by brick, after years of working as a bricklayer for others. "What do you want it for?" "It's none of your business. They're old papers. You don't need them. It's my house, Ethan. The only thing I have to leave to Leo someday." Ethan let out a bitter laugh. "To Leo? Don't be ridiculous. This pigsty is worthless. It's worth everything to me. And I'm not giving you the deed." His face transformed. The sun's mask fell away completely, revealing the predator he truly was. "Listen to me carefully, old man. I need money. A lot of money. And I need it now. I have debts, big debts, with dangerous people. Your pension isn't enough. I need to mortgage this house or sell it." "Debts? With who? What have you gotten yourself into, Ethan?" "That doesn't matter. Give me the damn deed." He grabbed me by the shirt collar, pushing me against the wall. For the first time, I saw real danger in his eyes. This wasn't the boy I raised. He was a stranger, a desperate man capable of anything. "I don't have it," I managed to say, as he tightened his grip on my throat. "You're lying." "I left it. At the bank. Safe deposit box." He let me go abruptly, making me fall to the floor. Gasping, I tried to catch my breath as he paced back and forth, like a caged beast. "Which bank?" I didn't answer immediately, and that seemed to infuriate him more. He raised his fist, and for a horrible moment, I thought he was going to hit me, his own father. But instead, he punched the wall, leaving a hole in the plaster that I myself had put up years ago. Answer me. Which bank? Bank of America. I lied. The deed was actually hidden under a loose floorboard in my room, but he didn't need to know that. Ethan stared at me, as if assessing whether I was telling the truth. Finally, he seemed to believe me. Tomorrow we'll go to that bank, and you better hope the deed is there, or I swear you'll regret it. He headed for the door, but before leaving, he turned one last time. And don't you dare talk to that cop again. I'm watching you. When the door closed, I stayed on the floor, shaking. The threat was clear. Ethan was willing to take even the roof over my head. As soon as I regained my strength, I crawled to the phone and called the number Lieutenant Miles had given me. Lieutenant, it's Oliver. Something serious has happened. I told him what happened, and his response was immediate. Don't move from there. I'm on my way with Alexandra from Social Services. While I waited, I took the deed from its hiding place and put it in the inner pocket of my old jacket. If Ethan came back before help arrived, he wouldn't find it. Lieutenant Miles and Alexandra arrived in less than half an hour. I told them in detail about the encounter with Ethan, not omitting anything this time. This is an escalation of violence, Alexandra said, taking notes. First financial abuse, now physical threats. Mr. Oliver, we have enough to request an immediate protection order. And Leo, I'm worried about what Ethan might do to him if he feels cornered. We can also request temporary emergency custody, Alexandra explained. With Leo's recordings and your testimony, plus what just happened, any judge will see that the child is not safe with his father. But Ethan is his father. Can they really take his son away from him like that? Lieutenant Miles intervened. Mr. Oliver, I understand your concern, but think about this. If Ethan has debts so serious that he's threatening you, what guarantee is there that Leo is safe? Desperate people can do terrible things for money. His words hit me with the force of truth. I had been so worried about keeping the peace in the family that I hadn't truly considered the danger Leo might be in. What do we do then? First, file a formal complaint, said Alexandra. Then, get the protection order and request temporary custody of Leo. But we need to act now, before Ethan comes back. I nodded, making the hardest decision of my life. Let's do it. At the police station, the process was surprisingly fast, thanks to Lieutenant Miles' intervention. I filed the formal complaint, showing the bruises on my neck as evidence of the physical assault. Alexandra activated the Elder Protection Protocol and requested an emergency hearing with a family judge for Leo's custody. While we waited, I couldn't stop thinking about my grandson. How would he take all this? Would he hate me for reporting his father? Lieutenant, I said suddenly, I need to talk to Leo before this all blows up. He needs to know what's happening, and why. That's risky, he replied. If Ethan finds out, please, he's my grandson. He deserves to hear it from me, not from a cop or a social worker who suddenly shows up at his house. Lieutenant Miles seemed to consider it and finally nodded. All right, we can arrange a controlled meeting, but it will have to be brief and in a safe place. Alexandra suggested Leo's school. We can coordinate with the principal. It's a neutral space where Ethan wouldn't suspect anything unusual. So we did. Alexandra made some calls and managed to arrange a visit to the school under the pretext of a Grandparents' Day activity they were supposedly organizing. When I arrived at the school, I felt a knot in my stomach. Was I doing the right thing? Wasn't I destroying Leo's family? The principal, a compassionate woman who had been informed of the situation by Alexandra, led us to her office, where Leo was already waiting. When he saw me, he ran to hug me. Grandpa, are you okay? I was so worried after I sent you that message. I hugged him tightly, trying to control my emotions. I'm fine, kiddo, but we have to talk about something very serious. The principal left us alone, and with a heavy heart, I explained the situation to Leo. I told him about the complaint, the protection order, and the possibility of him coming to live with me temporarily. To my surprise, Leo didn't seem scared or confused. He nodded solemnly as if he had already considered this possibility. I knew this might happen, Grandpa, he said with a maturity that left me speechless. Dad, he hasn't been the same since Mom left. He's getting angrier, more mean. Your dad has problems, Leo. Serious problems that he needs to solve. But that doesn't justify what he's been doing. I know. My civics teacher says we are all responsible for our actions, no matter how hard our life is. I smiled sadly. This child was wiser than many adults I knew. Leo, I want you to know that you'll always be able to see your dad. This isn't to separate you from him forever. It's just until things get better. He nodded again, but I could see the sadness in his eyes. Despite everything, Ethan was still his father. "I'm scared, Grandpa," he finally confessed. "Not for me, but for Dad. Lately, he talks on the phone with people who make him cry. He says things like, 'I'll pay you, and I just need more time.' Once, I heard him say that if he didn't pay, they would hurt his family. His words confirmed my worst fears. Ethan was involved in something really dangerous. And now it wasn't just Leo and me at risk. Ethan himself could be in mortal danger. Grandpa, there's something else you should know," Leo continued, lowering his voice. "Dad has a suitcase hidden at home. I saw it once when he wasn't there. It's full of weird stuff. White powders in little bags, colored pills, and a lot of cash. But there's also a gun. I felt the world stop. Drugs? A gun? The situation was worse than I imagined. Are you sure of what you saw, Leo?" "Yes, and there's something else. Last night I heard Dad talking to someone on the phone. He said he was going to get money by selling the old man's house. And if that didn't work, he had a plan B." He sounded very scared, Grandpa. Before I could answer, the door opened, and Lieutenant Miles came in with a grave expression. "Mr. Oliver, we have a problem. Ethan is at your house right now, apparently looking for you. My colleagues are watching him, but he seems agitated. Does he know I'm here?" "No, but he's asking the neighbors questions. It's a matter of time before he finds out something." I looked at Leo, who had turned pale upon hearing about his father. "What do we do now?" I asked. "The judge has already issued the protection order and the temporary emergency custody. Legally, Leo must remain in your care until the formal hearing, but we must act cautiously. Ethan can't know where you are. Are we hiding?" Leo asked in a trembling voice. "Just for a few days, kiddo," I assured him, though I myself was terrified. "Until things calm down." Lieutenant Miles took us to a safe house, a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood on the other side of the city. Alexandra accompanied us, making sure we had the basics to get by for a few days: food, clothes, medications. "Nobody knows you're here except us," the lieutenant assured us. "Ethan won't be able to find you." That night, while Leo slept in the next room, I sat with Alexandra and Lieutenant Miles in the small living room. Based on what Leo told me about the suitcase with drugs and the gun, I think Ethan is into something very serious, I told them. The lieutenant nodded thoughtfully. "I suspect he has debts with drug traffickers. It's common in cases like his. Desperate people who start by selling small amounts and then get into debt when things go wrong. What will happen to him?" I asked, feeling a pang of worry despite everything. He was still my son. If what Leo saw is true, Ethan could face serious charges. Drug possession, illegal possession of a firearm, not to mention the abuse against you. "But he's also in danger," added Alexandra. "If he owes money to drug traffickers, his life could be at risk." I ran my hands over my face, feeling the weight of the situation. This is all my fault. If I had acted sooner, if I had been firmer with him from the beginning. "Don't blame yourself," Alexandra said firmly. "Ethan is an adult who made his own decisions. You are a victim, not the one responsible. But he's my son. I raised him alone after Rose died. At some point, I must have gone terribly wrong for him to end up like this." Lieutenant Miles put a hand on my shoulder. "Mr. Oliver, I've seen many cases like this. Believe me when I say that some paths just get twisted, despite the best efforts of parents. The important thing now is to protect Leo and yourself." I nodded, although the weight of guilt did not diminish. How had we come to this? How had my son, that smiling boy who once built sandcastles with me, turned into a man capable of leaving his own father without food, of threatening me, of endangering his own son? A noise in the room alerted me. Leo was standing in the doorway, silent tears streaming down his cheeks. "Is Dad going to jail?" he asked in a broken voice. I stood up immediately and hugged him. "I don't know, kiddo. I hope not. I hope he can get help for his problems." "It's my fault," he sobbed against my chest. "If I hadn't shown those recordings—" "No, Leo, no. None of this is your fault. You did the right thing, the brave thing." I took him back to bed, where I stayed by his side until he fell asleep again. As I stroked his hair, I thought of all the times I had done the same with Ethan when he was little. Where had that boy gone? Was he still somewhere inside the man he had become? The next morning, Lieutenant Miles arrived early with alarming news. "Ethan went back to your house last night, but this morning he left in a hurry carrying a suitcase. My colleagues tried to follow him, but they lost him near the Central Market. The suitcase, do you think it's the one Leo mentioned? The one with the drugs? It's likely. And there's more. We received information that he's been asking about you in the neighborhood, offering money to anyone who tells him where you are. My God, what do we do now? For the moment, stay here. The formal hearing with the judge is tomorrow. Once the temporary custody and the protection order are ratified, we'll have more legal options. We spent the day locked inside, Leo and I, trying to distract ourselves with board games that Alexandra had brought. But my mind couldn't stop thinking about Ethan, about what he might be doing, about how desperate he must be to be looking for us like that. As evening fell, when Leo was already asleep, I heard a strange noise coming from the front door, a scratching sound, as if someone were trying to pick the lock. My heart raced. Had Ethan found us? How was that possible? Carefully, I went to the window and looked outside. There was an unknown car parked in front of the building, with 2 men inside. I couldn't see their faces, but something about their posture put me on high alert. I grabbed my phone and called Lieutenant Miles. Lieutenant, I think someone is trying to get into the apartment, and there's a suspicious car outside. I'm on my way. Don't open the door for anyone. Hide, Leo, and stay away from the windows. I hung up and ran to wake Leo. Kiddo, get up. We have to hide. What's wrong, Grandpa? He asked sleepily. I'm not sure, but someone is trying to get in. I took him to the bathroom, the only place without windows, and told him to get in the bathtub. Stay here. Don't make a sound. I'm going to see who it is. Grandpa, don't go. I'm scared. I'll be fine. Lieutenant Miles is on his way. I left the bathroom and locked it from the outside. Then, arming myself with a broomstick, I crept silently to the front door. The scratching had stopped, but now I heard muffled voices on the other side. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was threatening. Suddenly, a loud bang shook the door. Someone was trying to kick it down. I backed away, desperately looking for an escape route. The back window? We were on the 2nd floor. It was too high. Another kick, and the wood began to splinter. It was a matter of seconds before it gave way. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Lieutenant Miles. 2 minutes. Hold on, 2 minutes. Could the door hold on for that long? As if in answer to my silent question, the lock gave way with the next kick. The door flew open, revealing 2 burly men in ski masks. Where is Ethan? One of them asked, pointing a gun at me. I don't know, I answered, my mouth dry with fear. We know he's your son, and we know he's hiding here. He has a debt to pay. You're mistaken. There's no one here but me. The man looked at his partner, who began to search the apartment. My heart was beating so hard I was afraid they could hear it. If they found Leo. Last chance, old man. Where's your son? Before I could answer, we heard sirens approaching. The men looked at each other in alarm. Let's go, one said. This isn't over. They ran out, leaving me trembling in the middle of the living room. Seconds later, I heard the screech of tires as their car sped away. Lieutenant Miles arrived moments later, his gun drawn. Are you okay? Where's Leo? In the bathroom. Hidden. While the lieutenant checked the apartment, I ran to free Leo. I found him huddled in the bathtub, shaking with fear. It's over, kiddo. It's over. We're safe. I hugged him tightly, feeling his small body tremble against mine. At that moment, I understood that this had gone too far. It wasn't just a family dispute anymore. It was a matter of life and death. We didn't sleep again that night. Lieutenant Miles immediately moved us to another location, a small house on the outskirts of the city that the police used to protect witnesses. We didn't ask how they had found our previous hiding place. The important thing was that now we were safe, or at least we wanted to believe so. The house was humble but cozy, with basic furniture and a small kitchen. It had a backyard with a few orange trees, which gave it a peaceful, almost rustic feel. It could have been a good place to rest if it weren't for the circumstances. You'll be safer here, the lieutenant said, as he installed a portable alarm system on the front door. There's an officer on permanent guard outside, and no one knows you're here, except my superior and Alexandra. How could they find us before? I asked, as Leo settled into one of the rooms, too exhausted to even worry. The lieutenant sighed, rubbing his forehead tiredly. We have a theory. Do you remember Leo's cell phone? Phones can be tracked if you have the number and certain contacts. We believe Ethan might have discovered his son had a phone and used his connections to track it. A shiver ran down my spine. What kind of connections does my son have to be able to do something like that? The drug trafficking world uses advanced technology, Mr. Oliver, and based on what Leo told us about the drugs he saw, it seems Ethan is involved with high-level people. I slumped into a chair, feeling like my legs couldn't support me anymore. What did I do wrong, Lieutenant? How did my son end up in this? Don't torture yourself, Oliver. Many young people fall into that world, even with the best parents. The important thing now is to keep you and Leo safe, and see how we can help Ethan before it's too late. His words surprised me. Help Ethan? I thought you just wanted to arrest him. My job is to seek justice, not just lock people up, he replied with a half smile. If your son is in trouble with drug traffickers, he's also a victim, even if he made bad decisions. And from the looks of it, he's desperate, which makes him dangerous to himself and others. I nodded, feeling a mix of gratitude and worry. What's next? Tomorrow is the hearing with the judge. You and Leo will have to be present. The judge will confirm the protection order and temporary custody. After that, we'll have to find Ethan before the drug traffickers do. When the lieutenant left, I was alone with my thoughts. I peeked into the room where Leo was sleeping and watched him for a moment. Even in his dreams, his face showed worry, his brow slightly furrowed. Too many worries for a boy his age. I returned to the small living room and sat by the window, looking at the stars. Where was Ethan now? Hiding? On the run? Or maybe... No, I didn't even want to think about it. Despite my exhaustion, I couldn't sleep. The worry for my son, despite everything he had done, kept me awake. I remembered when he was little, how he followed me everywhere, fascinated with my bricklayer tools, trying to imitate everything I did. I remembered his first day of school, his graduation, the birth of Leo. At what point had he strayed so far from the path? Dawn found me still awake, my eyes burning with fatigue and my heart heavy. I got up to make coffee, mentally thanking Alexandra for having filled the pantry with basic provisions. Leo woke up shortly after, his hair disheveled and his cheeks marked by the pillow. For a moment, he seemed confused, not recognizing where he was. Then, reality returned to his eyes. "Good morning, Grandpa," he said with a sleepy voice. "Is it morning already?" "Yes, kiddo. Want some breakfast? There's cereal and milk." As we ate in silence, I noticed Leo was constantly looking out the window, as if expecting to see something or someone. "You're worried about your dad?" I finally asked. He nodded, unable to speak because of the lump in his throat. "Me too, Leo. Despite everything, he's still my son and your father." "Do you think he's okay, Grandpa?" Those men last night seemed very angry. I didn't want to lie to him. This boy had proven to be more mature than his age suggested, and he deserved the truth. "I don't know, kiddo. I hope so. Lieutenant Miles is looking for him to help him. What if the bad men find him first?" The question hung in the air, unanswered. We both knew it was a real, terrifying possibility. At noon, Alexandra arrived to take us to the hearing with the judge. She was dressed formally, in a pantsuit, and carrying a briefcase full of documents. "The hearing will be brief," she explained, as we drove to the courthouse in her car. "The judge will review the evidence, Leo's recordings, your testimonies, the medical reports of your injuries, and the police report on last night's incident. Everything indicates that the protection order and temporary custody will be confirmed." "And my dad?" Leo asked. "Will he be there?" "He was notified of the hearing. But given the circumstances..." Her voice trailed off, leaving the sentence unfinished. The courthouse was an imposing building in the city center. As we climbed the stairs, I couldn't help but feel a tightness in my chest. I never imagined I would end up in a courtroom because of my own son. The hearing room was smaller than I expected, with only a few benches and a bench where the judge would sit. Alexandra showed us where to sit and began to organize her documents. Lieutenant Miles arrived a few minutes later, with a grave expression. He approached us and spoke in a low voice. "They found Ethan's car abandoned near the river. There's no trace of him." My heart skipped a beat. "What does that mean, do you think?" "Let's not jump to conclusions," he interrupted. "It just means we don't know where he is. My colleagues are searching the area." The judge's arrival interrupted our conversation. He was an older man, with gray hair and a stern expression, but not without compassion. After the initial formalities, he carefully reviewed the documents presented by Alexandra. "Is the defendant, Ethan, present?" he finally asked. "No, Your Honor," Alexandra replied. "He was duly notified but has not appeared." The judge nodded, as if he already expected that answer. Given the facts presented and the seriousness of the accusations, I confirm the protection order in favor of Oliver and grant temporary custody of the minor, Leo, to his grandfather until a full hearing is held or the defendant appears. He looked directly at Leo, softening his tone. "Young man, do you understand what is happening? Do you have any questions?" Leo, surprised that the judge was speaking directly to him, sat up straight in his seat. Yes, Your Honor. I understand that I will stay with my grandfather for now. But what will happen to my dad when they find him? The judge seemed moved by the question. That will depend on many things, young man. But I assure you we will do our best to ensure he gets the help he needs. With that, the hearing was over. In less than 20 minutes, my life and Leo's had officially changed. We left the courthouse in silence, each of us processing what had happened in our own way. Outside, the sun was shining brightly, contrasting with the darkness we felt inside. Now what? I asked as we walked to Alexandra's car. Now we must decide where you will live, she replied. The safe house is temporary. You need a more permanent place. Can we go back to my house? I asked hopefully. After all, it was the only home I had. Lieutenant Miles shook his head. It's not safe. If those men are looking for Ethan, that's the first place they'll look again. Besides, Ethan has keys and could show up at any moment. But we can't live in hiding forever, I protested. It won't be forever, Alexandra assured me. Just until we find Ethan and resolve this situation. And what if they don't find him? The question went unanswered. No one wanted to consider that possibility. When we got to the car, I noticed something strange. A folded piece of paper was stuck under the windshield wiper. Alexandra took it cautiously, using a tissue so as not to touch the paper directly. What does it say? The lieutenant asked, coming closer to see. Alexandra unfolded the paper, read the contents, and turned pale. It's for Oliver, she said. She handed me the paper, which contained a handwritten message. Dad, I know you're with Leo. I need to see you. It's urgent. I'm in danger. Come alone to Aguaguetes Park at 6 p.m., next to the Great Fountain. Please, don't tell anyone about this note. It's a matter of life and death. Ethan. My hand trembled as I held the paper. The handwriting was unmistakably Ethan's. Show me that, the lieutenant said, taking the note. He examined it carefully. Are you sure this is your son's handwriting? Completely. This could be a trap, he warned. The same men who tried to break in last night could be using this to lure you out. Or it could be genuine, Alexandra countered. If Ethan is really in danger. Either way, you can't go alone, the lieutenant stated. It's too risky. But it clearly says to come alone, I pointed out, feeling a mix of fear and hope. If I show up with cops, he might get scared and run. Or worse, if he's really being watched by those traffickers. Lieutenant Miles ran a hand through his hair, visibly frustrated. I understand your point, but I can't let you put yourself at risk like that. What if he goes, but we watch him from a distance? Alexandra suggested. Oliver could wear a hidden microphone and we'd have undercover agents in the park. The lieutenant considered the idea. It's risky, but it could work. Would you be willing to do this, Oliver? The question took me by surprise. Was I willing to risk myself to help the same son who had left me without food, who had taken my pension, who had threatened me? I looked at Leo, who was watching the conversation with frightened eyes. If there's a chance to help my son, I have to try, I finally replied. But Leo stays with you, safe. No, Grandpa. This is not up for discussion, kiddo, I said, my voice firm. Your father is my responsibility. You are mine. The next few hours were a whirlwind of preparations. Lieutenant Miles organized a discreet operation, with plainclothes agents who would be strategically positioned in the park. They fitted me with a small microphone hidden under my shirt, and gave me precise instructions on what to do and what not to do. At 5:30 p.m., I was ready to go. Leo hugged me tightly, as if he feared it was the last time he would see me. Promise you'll come back, Grandpa, he whispered against my chest. I promise, kiddo. I'll be back, and with a little luck, we'll help your dad. Aguaguetes Park was one of the oldest and largest in the city, with ancient trees that provided shade for winding paths and rest areas. The Great Fountain, as everyone called it, was the central point of the park, a stone monument with figures of dolphins and mermaids spitting water in sparkling arches. I arrived promptly at 6 p.m., sitting on a bench in front of the fountain. The park was surprisingly empty for a pleasant afternoon. Had it been discreetly evacuated by the police? The minutes passed slowly. 6, 5, 6:10, 6:15. There was no sign of Ethan. Do you read me, Oliver? I heard Lieutenant Miles's voice through the small earpiece in my ear. Don't speak, just cough once if you hear me. I coughed softly. Good, we don't see any suspicious movements for now. If no one appears in 15 minutes, we'll abort the operation. Just as the lieutenant finished speaking, I noticed a figure approaching from the opposite side of the park. He was walking slowly, his head down and his hands in his pockets. As he got closer, I recognized Ethan, but something was wrong. His face was swollen and bruised, as if he had taken a beating. He was limping slightly, and his clothes were dirty and wrinkled. "Target in sight," I heard the lieutenant say in my ear. "Stay calm." Ethan sat down next to me, without looking at me directly. "You came?" he said in a low voice. "I'm your father. Of course I came." He finally looked at me, and what I saw in his eyes broke my heart. Fear, desperation, and something else. Shame. "Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault." "What happened, Ethan? Who are those men looking for you?" He looked around nervously before answering. "I got into something big, Dad. Too big for me. I started selling a little, just to make extra money. But then things got complicated. I lost a shipment. I owe them a lot of money. Is that why you wanted my pension? Is that why you tried to take the deed to the house?" He nodded, tears in his eyes. "I was desperate. They threatened me. They said if I didn't pay, they would go after my family. After Leo. Despite everything he had done to me, I felt a pang of compassion. My son was broken, trapped in a world that was devouring him. Where have you been?" "The police found your abandoned car. I had to leave it. They were following me. I've been hiding, sleeping on the street, in abandoned houses. But they found me yesterday. They beat me up as a warning." He showed me a huge bruise on his side, slightly lifting his shirt. "Ethan, let me help you. Lieutenant Miles is here. We can protect you, get you legal help." His eyes widened in panic. "You brought cops? I told you to come alone. They're at a distance, don't worry. They just want to help." He shot up, looking around frantically. "You don't understand, Dad. No one can help me. It's too late. It's never too late, son. Please, trust me." Something in my words seemed to reach him. He stopped, took a deep breath, and sat back down. "Dad, I need you to forgive me. For everything. For the money. For leaving you without food. For the threats." I was out of my mind. Fear turned me into a monster. "I forgive you, Ethan. You're my son. You'll always be my son." Tears were now running freely down his face. "Leo, is he okay?" "Yes, he's safe. He misses you, believe it or not. He's a good kid. Better than I ever was. He doesn't deserve a father like me. We all make mistakes, son. The important thing is to recognize them and try to fix them." Ethan looked at me, and for a moment I saw the boy he had been before life hardened him. "Do you think I can fix them? After everything I've done? I'm sure you can. But first, you have to turn yourself in to the police. It's the only way you'll be safe from those men." He considered my words for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "You're right. I'm tired of running. Leo deserves better. Lieutenant Miles is a good man. He'll help you." Just as Ethan seemed to have made his decision, I noticed movement at the far end of the park. 2 men were walking towards us with a determined stride. I recognized one of them. It was one of the men who had tried to break into the safe house the night before. "We have company," I murmured, knowing the lieutenant would hear through the microphone. Ethan turned and saw them. The color drained from his face. "It's them. They followed me." "We have to go. Now!" Before I could react, Ethan grabbed my arm and started dragging me towards the opposite exit of the park. "Run, Dad! They're dangerous!" We ran as fast as my old legs would allow. Behind us, the men picked up their pace, clearly chasing us. "Lieutenant, they're chasing us!" I shouted, knowing he would hear me through the microphone. "We're coming to you," the voice in my ear replied. "Stay calm and keep moving." But that was easier said than done. At 62, running wasn't my strong suit, and I soon began to run out of breath. Ethan noticed and changed direction, leading me towards a denser area of trees. "This way, Dad. We have to hide until the police arrive." We went into the trees, looking for cover. The sound of our pursuers grew closer and closer. "Ethan," I gasped. "I can't keep running like this." "Just a little longer, Dad. Don't give up." We found a small maintenance shed and hid inside. The space was cramped and dark, filled with gardening tools and bags of fertilizer. We crouched behind some boxes, trying to control our ragged breathing. "Do you think they saw us come in?" "I don't know," I whispered, hearing footsteps approaching. We held our breath. "Where did those bastards go?" A gruff voice growled. "They can't have gone far." The old man could barely run, another voice replied. The footsteps stopped right in front of the shed door. The handle turned slowly. Ethan looked at me with panic in his eyes. Then he made a decision that would change everything. He stood up from our hiding place and stood in front of me, shielding me with his body. The door burst open, revealing the two men. One of them pulled out a gun. "There you are, Cerrecero." "Game over," he said with a malicious smile. "Leave my father out of this," Ethan replied in a firm voice. "It's between you and me. Your father is involved now, too. You're both coming with us." "No." Ethan took a step forward. "My father has nothing to do with this. I'll go with you. I'll pay what I owe, but leave him alone." The man seemed to consider it, but then shook his head. "Sorry, but he's already seen our faces. We can't let him go." He raised the gun, aiming it directly at my head. I closed my eyes, expecting the worst. But the shot never came. Instead, I heard a loud scuffling sound and then a cry of pain. I opened my eyes to see Ethan wrestling with the armed man, trying to deflect the gun. "Run, Dad! Run!" Ethan shouted as he struggled. I couldn't move. I couldn't abandon my son. Just then, I heard shouts outside. "Police! Everyone on the ground!" Everything happened in a matter of seconds. The second man also pulled out a gun and aimed it at Ethan. Without thinking, I lunged forward, pushing my son out of the way. I felt a sharp pain in my shoulder as the bullet hit me. The last thing I remember before losing consciousness was Ethan's terrified face screaming my name, and then the figure of Lieutenant Miles entering the shed with his gun raised. "Dad, don't leave me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Darkness enveloped me as the sirens wailed in the distance. If you liked this story of how my own son left me without food and took my entire pension, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Share this video so others know that it's never too late to fight for justice and family love.